Hello, and thank you for tuning in. You're most welcome to join us wherever you are. My name's Stuart Reed, and this is ZeroDaysCyber. We explore different aspects of digital security on each show and examine what it could mean for you. Today's special guest in my virtual studio here is Gary Foote, Chief Information Officer of HaasF1 Team. Hi there, Gary, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Stuart. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm pleased to have you here. Now, before we get started into the main session today, I would like to start off with a much unrelated icebreaker question. And this one here has been submitted by Jenny. So big shout out to you. Thank you very much, Jenny. And the question is this. What is your number one place to visit in the UK?
It's a good question. Very relevant in today's world of slightly less travel. One of my main outside recreations is hiking. So I would encourage anyone to visit the national parks around the UK. My personal favourite is the Lake District. I'm trying to spend quite a bit of time there. But if that's quite a distance, especially if you're southern based, you've got the Peak District, and also obviously the south coast is very beautiful. So yeah, get into the mountains, get down to the coast, and do some walking.
Well, you're absolutely right. And those places that you've just touched on there, I've been to those before, and they're absolutely fantastic parts of the world. Now, I'm sure there are huge F1 fans out there, and I count myself among those. So this is really exciting for me. And one of the things the audience might be asking is how cybersecurity is relevant in the realms of motorsport. Surely this is about performance, aerodynamics, and drivability more than anything else.
It's a good question. Those are very relevant, to us for obvious reasons. But if you peel back the glamour of sport, not just motorsport actually, but probably any sport, underneath the skin, we're just a regular business like everyone else. In our particular case, we're primarily a manufacturing business. Our car being what we produce, but we have the same challenges as most businesses have. We've got IP data that we have to protect. We've got business data that we have to protect, and so cybersecurity is on the top of my agenda and top of the agenda of the board because we as a business we can't function unless we take it seriously.
And of course, you, like everybody else, really, the last year has been so different in many ways for everybody, and for you in motorsport, that's of course been no exception. You've had a reduced schedule last year, no fans there to take part in the events, a pretty horrific crash on the circuit, really, for one of your teammates, although thankfully nowhere near as bad as it could have been. How different was it for you from a behind the scenes or a technology perspective last year?
I think it was a very tough year. It was a tough year for the sport for the reasons you've mentioned. As a team, we're paid to compete. That's our revenue model. We have the sponsor and the partner side, but behind the scenes, the sport pays us to compete. And if they're getting reduced revenues because of the reduced calendar, and the circuits are getting reduced revenues because fans aren't buying tickets, it all affects the job and the income. Our team specifically was our continuation in the sport for the next 5-year period. The sport has commitments of 5 years, wasn't completely guaranteed last year, and that makes it an unsettled time. Thankfully, the team's owner is committed to a further 5 years, and the sport quickly adapted actually to the challenges of last year. So although we had a delayed start as we tried to rejig the calendar, and the huge logistics operation behind F1 is really quite a beast. As soon as that settled down, the sport actually was able to get to quite a number of races towards the tail end of last year, especially in Europe, where logistics are an awful lot easier. And this year, the challenges that the world has faced, they haven't gone away. As you and I were discussing, before the call, the world has adapted to this challenge, and our sport's no different. It's adapted. Specific challenges on the technology front was really as fundamental as budget related.
And thinking, you touched on there about the budget situation, and you also touched on earlier the fact that, if you peel back the layers, you're just like any other business when it comes to the backbone and the technology side. What do you think makes the biggest difference to reducing your cyber risks? I mean, where do you concentrate your efforts and your budget as a CIO?
I think a number of areas. Diversity of products and product portfolio has always been important to me, actually, regardless of the struggles of last year, picking the right products to do the right job, but also education, and that's something that we in our organization have put a lot of time into over the last 3 or 4 years. And a lot of that can be done at quite low cost, and that's education in terms of management level and allocating spend. That's education within the IT team, me, my staff. It's important that I keep up to date with the landscape, the threat landscape, and understanding where our resources need to be channeled. But also importantly is the education of our users, of our staff. They're often the first line of defense in any cyber incident. And they're areas that we can concentrate on when budget and thus external product selection is reduced.
And I wanted to touch on the technology that is within the car itself as well, because it seems that in many respects there's a lot of mission critical technology within the car. There's a number of sensors that I know that have different measures, and they have different purposes. If one of those was compromised in some way, could that really result in an accident?
I think it's unlikely. Never say never, but the car is designed, with an awful lot of safety systems. The progress that's been made in the sport in the last 10 years towards safety is unbelievable. And so the reliance on single sensors or even groups of sensors to cause an accident is fairly unlikely. But the car is an electronically driven system. The brake system, the throttle systems, the power units are all electronically driven. And so a compromise of that is certainly going to make our jobs very, very hard. But outside of the car is probably the bigger risk. I think it was 2017. One of our competitors, can remain nameless, was hit by the WannaCry malware incident, and that caused them quite a few gremlins at the circuit, and the car didn't run for a number of sessions actually. So they're probably the bigger concerns, because if the car doesn't run, same as before, then that's when your revenue stream is hit, but also where your brand and your responsibility to your partners' brands becomes a problem.
And what you're talking about here is that clearly, at the heart of you as a business, you're largely technology driven and reliant on technology. But of course, the events of the last year in 2020 have propelled digital transformation for everybody. So that starts to widen that risk profile that we've just spoken about. As a CIO, what advice would you give in terms of balancing the need for rapid change in technology to support business continuity? And so that could be the working from home during the pandemic perspective, and securing that technology. Should security take a back seat if it means minimal interruptions to business continuity, or being first to market with a new innovation?
I think you have to find a balance. But the way I can best describe it in a racing way is perhaps that, when we're looking at how to prioritize initiatives on our race car, we look at safety, reliability, and performance in that order. If you put that into a normal business perspective, I think I would probably lean onto a security side. Because at the end of the day, you're protecting your brand and your reputation. And so, yes, you can react quickly or bring a new product to market, but that's no good if your brand is compromised.
And you're certainly, what you've talked about shows that you have such a strong reliance on technology, and it's clear that you want to make sure that technology is secured for all the reasons you've just mentioned, in terms of safety, in terms of integrity, in terms of that brand preservation. As a result of that, what would your key ask be of the cybersecurity industry that would really shift the dial for you in terms of supporting your role as CIO within the business?
I think probably the biggest ask would be keeping up. The biggest challenge with the cybersecurity landscape at the moment is its ever-changing nature. And every day you read about a new threat or a new methodology or a new group, that's using quite advanced techniques to achieve their goal, whatever that happens to be. And so the cybersecurity industry, it needs to keep up, because the customer, us, that their knowledge and their products and their updates, and that is an important part of our strategy.
Well, it's great to have your perspective, Gary. Really appreciate your time on ZeroDaysCyber today, and thank you very much again for joining us. And so with that, we do close this episode of ZeroDaysCyber. So thank you at home for tuning in. If you like what you saw, please do join us again. And of course, tell your friends, family and colleagues. Also, if you do want to ask Gary any questions or raise anything that we've spoken about today, or even just to give us your feedback, or perhaps to suggest an icebreaker question of your own for my next guest, please do get in touch with us at ZeroDays_cyber or at ZeroDaysCyber.net. Thank you very much for being with us, and see you again soon. Bye-bye.